Welcome in to another Running with the Timberwolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. My name is Gabe Anderson, and I'm joined, as always, by Chris Emerson. Chris, how we doing?
We're doing great, man. We're doing really well. Just can't quite think of what we're going to talk about today, but we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, there's really nothing. It seems like nothing has happened in the past week that we could possibly talk about. I mean,
We'll fill space.
Right. It's been a dry spell. So anyway, if you're just tuning in, we're doing a player profile on Josh Minot. No, I'm just kidding. We're not. We, of course, are going to talk about two things today. We're talking about the cat trade because I gave my thoughts on a podcast you can go listen to that I did on Friday night. But Chris has not had his chance to put in his 2 cents, at least over the airwaves yet. So, Chris, I just want to get into it right away. Your thoughts on the trade?
Well, I mean, let's go back 1 week to when you asked me. We were doing a player profile on Karl Anthony Towns.
Right.
And the last question you asked me, or one of the last ones, was, do you think that Karl Anthony Towns is good enough to be the number 2 guy on a championship team? And I said no. And I said, the reason is you need a guy that's your number 2, in my opinion, that you can throw the ball to and he can get a bucket. You know, he can attack a mismatch.
Right.
And we talked about how, Karl Anthony Towns so far in his career, which, we can't talk like it's just a young career. I mean, it's been 10 years now. You can defend him with a small forward. You can defend him with a shooting guard. And he can't get a bucket on those guys. Like, he can't reliably be thrown to and get a bucket. So that need was just filled. Julius Randle is that guy. Like, I'm going to take the boring money part out of it, which we've been saying for a year now, that Karl Anthony Towns is going to be traded. Like, I was amazed he made it this long. I get going all the way through last year. I was very surprised. It doesn't surprise me he was traded in the offseason, just because financially we kind of had to.
Right.
But stylistically, take the money away. We got ourselves now a guy that legitimately can be a get the ball to him and let him go get a bucket type guy. I mean, he's 3-4 years removed from being an MVP candidate when he was healthy. He can really do damage on the offensive end. And I think what's really undersold is the 2 biggest needs we needed going into the offseason was a guy who can get a bucket other than Anthony Edwards, and this is in my opinion, and we needed a backup point guard. Well, I mean, we kind of did both with Julius Randle. I mean, he's often ran the offense. Like, he's often brought the ball up and initiated the offense. So it wouldn't completely blow my mind if Julius Randle is used as a de facto point guard or backup point guard, and then let Dillingham kind of play off him and let some of these guys play off him some. I mean, just the fit wise, it's perfect for me. Sure, would you have wanted more value? Like, I always want more value, but you give me a 3-time All-Star who's just like a year older than Karl Anthony Towns or something. And he was an all-star last year. So it's not like this guy's an old has-been. Right. And then you give me Dante DiVincenzo or whatever, and that kid can play. And he's trending in the right direction. Like, he's having his best years currently. So he's going to step in and be, starter quality player coming off our bench. Like, we went from having, kind of a suspect bench to now we're going to have a deep, deep bench. We're going to have a very versatile bench with guys like Ingles, and now we've got Dante. He's like a Michael Beasley kind of. He adds a wrinkle like JJ Redick to your offense, where you can, he can shoot off the move. He can run off screens, like all that stuff we were hoping that Dillingham could do. And we talked about him. We're saying, let's hope that he can show this. Dante has shown it, like at a elite NBA level. So like, we kind of just fast forwarded what we needed from Dillingham, and maybe even more importantly for Nas and Dillingham, these are 2 guys that they can learn from. Dillingham can learn how Dante, as a smaller guy, plays quality defense, how he gets his shots off, how he gets his body set and uses his legs to shoot from distance. Nas can learn from Randle about how you can be an all-star level player as a big that maybe doesn't have the most traditional skills, but has skills that, dribble skills, passing skills, like all the kind of skills that Nas has really developed. Julius Randle has already got. So I'm all for the trade. Money aside, I think we got better as a team ignoring the money, but I think the money is going to be a huge factor going forward to help us keep the team in place.
I think so too. And a couple factors here. People are saying it's a salary dump. It's all for the money. And part of it is, but you also got to remember, we're like the second highest team payroll in the league next season. So it's not
in the history of pro sports even.
Right. So it's not a complete salary dump. This isn't a move just to get off of Towns' contract, which it partly is that, but it's also a move to say, I think that the addition of Julius Randle and particularly Dante DiVincenzo makes us a much deeper team. I mean, if you look at the 1 through 9 of this team, basically what you're going to play in a playoff scenario, it is astounding. I mean, your 9th or 10th guy is Joel Ingles, and he played a significant role last year with the Orlando Magic. And one thing that I love about Dante DiVincenzo, he really stepped up in the playoffs, particularly against Indiana in the Western Conference Finals in the 7-game series. 46% from three, 48% from the field, 22 points per game. And I got to go back to it. I know I said this on the last podcast, but Cat in losses in the playoffs, he went a total of 36% from the field, 26% from three, and a minus 76. So, I mean, I think this is totally a reaction to how he played and has played in the playoffs, particularly against the Mavericks. I can't help but thinking that.
I mean, I think on the court, it has definitely some ramifications. And again, to call something a salary dump when you're getting a all-star in his prime is kind of a reach.
Right.
So I think that people are just trying to make things up. The same people that probably thought the sky was falling when we traded for Rudy Gobert. Mind you, if you're a Timberwolves fan and you thought the sky was falling in the worst trade in NBA history when we traded for Rudy Gobert, and you're feeling kind of the same way about this trade, maybe you need to sit this one out for a while and let the games be played before you make a strong, like you've already shown your hand a little bit. Maybe let this play out a little bit. But, everyone's trying to make up things like, oh, well, Randle, he's never healthy. Well, I mean, he's healthier than Karl Anthony Towns has been. Okay, well, Randle, he can't stretch the court. Well, in his last full season, which wasn't last year, the year before that, he shot 34% from three. The difference and on high numbers, on 8 attempts a game, like Karl Anthony Towns is shooting like 4 or 5. So like the difference between 34% from three and 40% from three is like, like one shot going down every 3 games more. Like we're not talking like this guy just can't shoot. And, spacing is like the fun word people are saying. In the NBA, you either close out hard on somebody or you don't. Like if you're a guy like, slow-mo standing out there, you don't close out hard on him. If you're almost anyone else, you close out hard. So like the defense is going to be stretched just the same way as if Randle, an all-star, is standing out there than a Cat. So, I mean, I think that's people are making stuff up to try to get to try to find a reason. But I really believe 15 games into the season, people are going to be like, wow, this Randle guy's a lot different than I wanted or than I thought. Right. And that's just on the court. But I think off the court and in the locker room, it's going to be much different. I mean, this guy's got 2 kids. He's been through it. He's been through the heat in New York. He's been through the heat in Los Angeles. Like he knows how to handle himself as a pro. He's a dog. Like he's a real basketball hooper type guy. And I think that's gonna mesh well with what we have in our locker room currently.
I agree. And another factor to it is I was listening to the interview today from Media Day with Anthony Edwards, and this is kind of talking about spacing. But he said what he learned the most from playing with those guys on Team USA, like Steph and LeBron. First of all, one thing, he did say that he's going to take a pre-game ritual from LeBron. He hasn't been able to do it yet because they haven't had a game, but he learned that. And then what he said he learned the most, he said he learned from Steph. He basically say playing off ball and cutting and finding the open lane, which will help with spacing as well. If you have a dominant guy like Ant with the ball, and then he's cutting and finding points that way as well. I mean, that's huge. And another thing I'll say about what Ant said at Media Day, he said, and I don't think a lot of guys would say this. They would probably say, oh, playing in the gold medal game was the biggest thing, or playing with LeBron every night. He basically said his favorite part was practice, where he got to mix it up with LeBron and KD, which we know he loves, and Steph Curry and Jason Tatum, and just learning from those guys and getting to mixing it up with those guys every day. I was listening to the Score North guys, their podcast, and they were saying that Anthony Edwards didn't go to Team USA to just like have fun, mess around. And I think that's a good sign for Wolves fan that maybe he's growing up a little bit. I mean, the first thing with Ant was, okay, he's got to stop eating fast food at the press conferences after games. And then it was, take the skills challenge seriously. But it seems like he went to Team USA, learned as much as he could from these guys, learned their tendencies, learned their pregame rituals, learned what made them successful. And I think that's also the last thing I'll say on Ant, at least right now. I don't know if you saw him in Media Day. You can see it on the card for this episode. He looks jacked. He has cut some fat. He has put on some muscle. He looks ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, that sort of attitude, that professional attitude, is something that I think takes a while to really instill. And I think it's something that our team has now got rid of everybody who didn't have that. You know,
right.
Like we had, again, Karl Anthony Towns is a great talent, but, you know, I mean, overall hard work, professionalism isn't something that at least was portrayed by him. Maybe, I mean, everyone I think at that level is a hard worker. Like, I'm not going to try to pretend like he didn't work hard, but there's definitely some people who I think get by on their skill set and on their God-given ability more than hard work. And I think we've got guys in the locker room now that all believe in hard work as the move. Yeah, I'm just excited. I think that these types of players, what I keep thinking about is lineup combinations. Like, this makes us so much more versatile. Like I said, Randle can like lead he can run point. That's something Cat couldn't do. Like, Tim Connolly loves guys that have a wiggle, that have some shake to them. He loves, Bones Highland. He loves, Jamal Murray. Like, he loved Dillingham. Like, those types of guys are his types of guys. He's said that before. It's been made clear. Randle has that. Chris Finch loves his bigs to be able to grab the rebound and push right away. That you don't want Karl Anthony Towns dribbling more than once or twice, streaming down the court. But that's what Randle does. I mean, he runs the court. He run with the ball. Like, he leads the break type guy. So those sorts of fits will be great. I can't even imagine a Nas and Randle front court. Like, that's going to be a nightmare for other bigs. Like, who do you guard? Nobody wants either one of those guys.
Right.
We could throw a roster out there like Dillingham, Edwards, McDaniels, Nas, and Randle. Like, holy cow, like, so much offense. Or maybe DiVincenzo instead of McDaniels if we don't need the length. Like, we've got wing defenders like Edwards, Alexander Walker and now Dante with McDaniels. I mean, we're piling up like repeatable assets that are valuable. Like this team is going to be able to have so many different looks. Yeah, I'm just excited for everything to play out. And like you said, if Anthony Edwards put on some weight and maybe now he's going to focus, maybe he'll have some more post game. Maybe he'll be able to take some smaller guards into the post and really hurt them. I mean, adding something like that to his arsenal would just be even better.
Yeah, and with Ant building up his body, he also mentioned that what was great about playing with Team USA was he's in shape now. He didn't need to come to he didn't need to come to training camp to get into shape. He came in shape. So I think he's going to be ready to go straight off the jump. And I want to get into some comments that Mike Conley made. Of course, the trade is not official, so they couldn't really get into the Randle Towns thing. They can't really talk about it. Particularly Tim Connolly couldn't really get into it. Chris Finch couldn't get into it. But they did. Mike Conley had some great points. He basically said last year there were times that the lane was clogged with two centers. And let's be honest. I mean, that was a concern early on in the first year of the Cat Rudy experiment. And we thought it was over, but obviously that concern hasn't gone away, at least privately, from guys like Tim Connolly and the point guards. Like you want to give Rob Dillingham a little room to operate. You don't want two centers in there clogging up the lane. And then the other thing, and I'll let you react to this, Conley also said, and I love this quote, Dante DiVincenzo can do things that Cat can do, but he's a guard. So instead of getting a post up and shooting a three or kind of bogging the offense down with a couple dribbles, DiVincenzo is coming off screens. He's running around with quick fire threes and making half of them. So I love that Conley said that. Your reaction to those quotes?
Well, I mean, the DiVincenzo part kind of echoes what I've been saying. Like if you are defended by a small forward or a shooting guard, then that's what you are. You're a small forward or a shooting guard. So like Karl Anthony Towns on offense for us a lot of times was just a very, very slow shooting or small forward. So now we've got a faster version. Like he didn't really, his offensive eliteness had nothing to do with his height. Like maybe he can get a shot off better, but like him being 7 foot really wasn't what gave him an advantage over anybody in the offensive end of basketball. So losing that height on offense isn't really going to affect us. With the clogging the lane thing, yeah, I mean, again, there was times when like Karl Anthony Towns has made his living being a center up until, a couple of years ago. So there's some muscle memory on, where you're supposed to go, where you want to get the ball. And when you have two guys that both have that same muscle memory, I'm sure there's times when both of them are in the same place trying to get the same ball. And that can be sloppy. Hopefully now with Randle, who's played a lot more on the wing, maybe that'll be a little bit less. We'll see.
Where I think the difference between Cat and Randle, I think on post-ups or getting the ball at the free throw line, it's going to be advantage Randle. Like the one-on-one stuff is going to be advantage Randle. Where Randle struggles a little bit more, although he was in a three-point contest, which a lot of people don't understand why he was in that. But where Randle's struggle more, obviously, is shooting the three, which we know it was just what we gave up with Cat. But obviously, some of that will be remedied with the better shooting of Joe Ingles, or more specifically, a Dante DiVincenzo. Now, Julius Randle, a lot of people are saying that they want Naz Reid to start instead of Julius Randle. I don't see that happening, but what do you think?
I mean, maybe. I mean, I guess I'll have to see it on the court. I mean, they're very similar players, just Randle's way more polished. I mean, Randle shot 41% from three just 3 or 4 years ago. So I mean, he has it in him. Yeah, I mean, I don't really care which one of those two start, to be honest. I mean, if they're playing 35 and 30 minutes combined
Mhm.
total, like I don't know if that matters. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't think the start and bench thing's really that big of a deal. I say the guy that has proven that he can come off the bench and be hot right away as a sixth man of the year should
Mhm.
probably keep rolling in that category, opposed to having a guy who, he's definitely come off the bench some of his career, but for the last
Early on.
yeah, for the last 5 years, he's been a starter every single game. So, like, I don't think that changing that up would be much of a benefit, and I don't
Right.
think that Nas gets some sort of like superpower up from being a starter. So, I mean, I
Right.
think that's kind of just a pointless distinction, which is again probably just another way people are trying to put the trade down by saying, we didn't even get a starter kind of thing. So, yeah, it seems kind of ludicrous to think a guy who was an all-star last year and the year before that and 2 years before that is going to be a bench guy all of a sudden when he's in his
Right.
prime, but whatever.
Now, do you said it didn't matter to you or the fan, or shouldn't matter to you or the fans. Do you think a guy like Julius Randle, who's on a higher contract than Nas, is, like you said, a three-time All-Star, former and all NBA player? Do you think it matters to him to start? Like, here's the thing. I don't think that we want to get off to a beginning with Julius Randle where we piss him off by not
Right.
letting him start if that's a big thing to him. I think Nas will be fine coming off the bench because
I would think
obviously we saw it last year.
Yeah, I would think more than anything, it's going to be a big thing to just like, how do you get into your rhythm? Like, how are you used to getting in your rhythm? How are you used to playing the game? And I think Randall's used to starting. So, I mean, yeah, I would say it would be stupid to change that up. But
Mhm.
um, stylistically, I don't know if it would really matter. But yes, I would say it'd be a dumb move to throw him onto the bench. I think it would be kind of a dismissive move, and it would kind of make it look like it was just he's just added on and he's going to be a trade chip for soon after.
Right.
I would say if you're going to try to make a run for a title with this roster, you want him bought in as a starter, and you hopefully think that he's going to be able to be an all-star level player.
Mhm. And another thing, DiVincenzo, there was reports that with New York, he
Yeah.
was a little disgruntled, didn't want to come off the bench, didn't want to buy into their system a little bit. So that's kind of why they made the trade for DiVincenzo. And
Yeah,
I almost
that's
yeah,
gonna be
go.
a sticky that's gonna be something that's gonna be maybe a little sticky with this is Steven Central. But I mean, if you think about it, I mean, he was a Knick last year, so like he has credibility. He, started 60 games out of the 80. He had that huge run when they needed it. He was a workhorse down the stretch. I understand his point saying, like, well, what more did you want me to give you? I gave you 20 points a game on good defense and elite shooting percentages. And now a guy comes in and he just takes my spot, like from a
Mhm,
different team. Like, I could
mhm.
understand there's some loyalty there that he might be a little questionable about. I'm not sure if he's going to feel that same way when he comes here with like Mike Conley starting over him.
Here,
Uh, but I mean, he's in a new spot. He might have a little bit more patience with the system.
here's the thing. I think that Nas and DiVincenzo are going to be almost starter level minutes for
Right.
us because,
Yes.
and here's why. Julius Randle coming off at least initially, Julius Randle coming off a shoulder surgery. They're going to want to preserve him a little bit, particularly if they're thinking about re-signing him next year, because next year he is on a player option. And the other factor, and Mike Conley talked about this as well, Coach Finch has told Mike Conley that he is not going to play as much as he did last year. And I think
Sure.
that's smart. He's 36 years old. He's played 76 games this year, which honestly, for like a third year, fourth year guy, if you say, oh, he played 76 games this year, oh, he only missed like 6 games. That's not bad. We take that. And this is a
Yeah.
36-year-old point guard. So
And
I
some of those were
see
scheduled.
right. Right. But what I'm saying is I think there's going to be several games where you could see a guy like DiVincenzo in the starting lineup because they don't want to start Conley. They want to preserve him. And I think Conley could be down to like maybe 20 minutes a game and DiVincenzo plays the rest. Like I don't think, even like you were talking about with Julius Randle, I don't think that even if DiVincenzo doesn't start, I think he's going to have a major role on this team. I think he's going to play a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, he's young. He's got young legs. He's just coming off his best season of his career. I don't think it's going to matter whether he starts or not, because I think he's going to buy in right away.
Well, here's the minutes per game last year so our top 5 were right about at 30 or over, including Conley was at 29. So like you said, he's not going to
play that much this year.
No, there's going to be 5 or 6 minutes there for sure that he's going to have that's going to be allocated out. But after that, our 6th, 7th, and 8th guy were 24, 23, and 23 minutes basically a game. So, I mean, those are 3 guys that are getting solid minutes. Now, you sprinkle in a couple more minutes here or there. You maybe take a couple off for Rudy Gobert. Maybe instead of 32, maybe Randall's playing 28. I mean, you're right at, 25, 26, 27 minutes for 3 guys off our bench. So, yeah, I mean, to think that Dante and Naz, they're going to definitely get a little bump up. And, there's, like you said, there's guys that are going to be sitting out. I think Anthony Edwards is going to have to sit some more this year. I mean, he's played nonstop for the last 2 years straight.
Right.
Rudy might sit a little extra. Like, I think
so.
I think we might kind of embrace a little bit of this, resting kind of move a little bit and let some of these guys eat that are younger guys. I think that's a smart move. We just weren't that deep last year, to be honest.
Right. And you mentioned Anthony Edwards. He played so much because he had to.
Yep.
He had to. There were stretches where your lead offensive guy was, or your only guy going on offense was Kyle Anderson, and no one wants that. So he had to be out there because when he would go out, the offense would be stagnant. Like you said, just swinging the ball around, hoping that Naz can make a move. And Naz was great. But at the same time, if Naz is the focal point of your offense while you're on the floor, I don't think that's a recipe for success.
Well, it's just a lot on his shoulders. It's a lot on a young big that's just figuring it out. And I don't want to keep kicking this point, but Karl Anthony Towns didn't have that skill set. Like, you can't be like, oh, Cat's out there. It doesn't matter. We'll swing it to him and he's just going to go find us buckets. That's not what he's elite at. And it's not a knock on him. It's just what he's not good at. That is what Randall's good at, so like that's going to relieve some of that pressure. And yeah, I mean, I'm just excited to see this roster go. I'm really excited. I'm more excited now than I was, 3 days ago. And I mean, the depth of this team is going to be staggering. And I think just the defensive intensity and the ball movement, I think, has went up quite a bit with this trade. So I'm excited for all of it.
The last thing I will say about Cat, because we got to wrap up the episode, and credit to Score North for getting this stat, but Karl Anthony Towns, first of all, over the last 4 years, only one player in the NBA has had more fouls per game, and that is Jaren Jackson Jr. The other stat, most offensive
who, mind
fouls,
you, is a defensive player of the year candidate, something that Cat is nowhere near. So, like, you can give up some fouls when a guy's, leading the league in blocks and taking, risks in that manner.
The other stat, for the past 4 years, the leader in offensive fouls by a large margin has been Karl Anthony Towns. They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Right.
I don't know. I feel like Cat hasn't learned anything.
Yeah. And I mean, that's my rub. I mean, that's something that I've been saying for half a decade now is, when are you going to add something? Like, when are you going to notice that this isn't right? What are you going to notice that your agility isn't at NBA elite level and add some sort of thing to your workout program? Like, he kind of rests on his abilities, and his ability as a shooter is amazing, but it's kind of his only really amazing ability. So, yeah, I mean, I think the Knicks are going to be in for a surprise when they see what Karl Anthony Towns really is. And I think New York is going to be hard on him. And I hope equally so we're going to be surprised at what Julius Randle is for us. And I think we're going to love what he brings, and I hope that's true.
Chris, I love your takes because basically every take that I've heard, negative or positive, has been for the Wolves saying, man, we love DiVincenzo. We love DiVincenzo as a part of this. And Randall's just kind of there. You're kind of taking it a different direction.
Yeah.
You think that Randle is going to be the all-star level player that he was last year, and it's going to be a big focal point of this trade in this offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to be able to do almost like Nikola Jokic type stuff where you have the big operate as a passer, as a play creator, where we tried that with Karl Anthony Towns, but he's not that guy. Like, how many bad passes, how many turnovers on just ugly plays did he have? Like, I think it's going to be refreshing for people to see. And I think it's just a lot of people haven't seen Julius Randle. And when you're a young player in LA and then you're a guy in New York, if you're not winning titles, people are going to be talking crap about you. So there's always going to be crap swirling around him. I think it's going to be refreshing for him to come here in a little calmer environment. Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to be able to ride this all the way to the top.
I agree. And we'll have more on this. We'll be talking about this throughout the I think there's only like 21 days until the NBA season starts. Obviously, we play opening night against the Lakers, and I believe we have a preseason game this week, in fact, in Abu Dhabi.
A little fun fact about our preseason game is on the 13th of October, which is 2 weeks away. We play at New York versus the Knicks.
I saw that. Yeah.
But yeah, we play on the 4th versus the Lakers.
It'll be fun. Is that in LA?
That might be the Abu Dhabi one.
Is it? Oh, okay. Well,
I'm not sure.
I don't know. I doubt Anthony or Edwards plays that much, and I doubt the stars. So we might see a good amount of Rob Dillingham, so that'll be fun to watch for that. But anyway,
for sure.
It'll be fun. Chris, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
And this is the Running with the Timberwolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube and give us a 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple. And if you're on one of those platforms, please leave a comment. Let us know what you think about the episode because we want to hear your opinion. And as always, go Wolves.